Welcome back. Several years ago, 60 Minutes did a story about Americans who moved to Costa Rica. It was appealing. Escape. Who hasn't imagined leaving our routines in the dust for paradise? If you have, could Costa Rica be that destination? For many expats like those in the 60 Minutes story, it is. Meet writer Erin Van Rheenen, who moved to Costa Rica in 2002 and spends her life there and in California. Her practical guide to this dramatic relocation is titled Living Abroad in Costa Rica. Erin Van Rheenen, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Now, first of all, I've got to ask you, I mean, my husband and I told you this when I saw you in the building, we've been having this conversation since the 60 Minutes piece, and every couple of weeks he goes, let's go to Costa Rica. This is like the dream. Let's go to Costa Rica. And I go, let's not. You know, and that's the end of the discussion. But we moved to a tropical island years ago. Not that Costa Rica's an island, it's a country. That's right. The first thing. Okay. And it's a big adjustment. My question to you is, how long or how much time did you spend in Costa Rica before you decided to actually relocate there?
Well, I lived there full-time for 2 years. And I moved with the intention of being there for a while.
Okay, but when you lived there for 2 years, had you been there on vacation before that?
Yes, I had.
Okay, yes, and how many times or how long? A week here?
I'd only been there like a couple weeks, actually. But I just knew the place was for me.
Because?
Well, I think it's a lot like falling in love. Like, you appreciate the physical beauty first, and then the more time you spend there, the more you see what's under the surface. And so the physical beauty is undeniable. Yeah. It's just like you can go surfing on the beaches or lie on the beach, or you can tramp through the rainforest.
Probably, huh?
Yeah,
tropical climate. Weather is a big factor for a lot of people.
Right now, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's perfect time.
I mean, anybody on the East Coast, I'm sure, will buy this book and say, hey, this is what we're doing, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And I think, you know, Costa Rica has 5 to 6% of the entire world's biodiversity. So you can see monkeys, you can see sloths, you can see toucans, and if you're lucky, a jaguar. And so I think that's the initial draw.
Okay, so you see the jaguar, but can you buy peanut butter in a jar at the store? I mean, because sometimes the everyday things are very difficult to find or obtain. Is it pretty much up to speed?
If you want peanut butter, you can get peanut butter.
Okay.
You can get Haagen-Dazs ice cream. You can get Celestial Seasonings teas. You know, so I think it has a nice combination of the exotic and the familiar. And I think I was talking about what you see once you look under the surface, once you've been there a while. And it's a wonderful option to relocate there because it's very economically and politically stable. And
you say they have no army?
They abolished their army in 1949. So they've made the right choices. Now, when Lyndon Johnson made a state visit to Costa Rica in, I think it was 1968, they had to borrow a cannon from Panama to give him the customary 21-gun salute.
Get out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do they speak English?
Well, you know, Spanish is the language. A lot of people speak English. Not as many as you might expect. I think one of the most important things to do if you're thinking about relocating to any Latin American country is to learn a little Spanish.
Learn the language, obviously. Yeah, that would make sense. Although you can probably reconnect with a lot of expatriates.
There's
or expats,
a large expatriate community, and
And are you easily assimilated into that group? Are they cliquish or clannish or anything like that, or do they let's say, oh, another one, let's bring them in?
Well, you know, if you live in the Central Valley, where San Jose, the capital city, is, that is the center of the country in more ways than one, and there's an enormous expatriate community. There are tens of thousands. And so you can pick and choose who you want to hang out with. If you're out in the jungle or in a remote beach location, of course the expatriate community is going to be much smaller.
Right, okay. And so and I think also part of, if you're going to go someplace, I mean, we felt this with St. Thomas when we moved there years ago, was learning to be part of the community that is there.
Exactly.
Is that an easy adjustment? Do people who are native Costa Ricans welcome people coming in, Americans specifically?
I think a little respect goes a long way.
Yes.
If you respect the culture, you respect the language, and you don't try to impose your way of doing things on the locals, then I think you can be a part of the community. There's a saying among Costa Rica expatriates, they said, if you want this to be just like home, just go home. Because it's not just like home. And if you want someplace exactly like where you lived, why
move?
Why go abroad?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the cost of living, because I remember that was one thing that captured a lot of people's imaginations, including my husband's, because they made it sound on the 60 Minutes speech, which was about, I'm going to guess, it feels like it was about 5 years ago. I could be wrong. And things may have changed. According to your book, it seems like they have gotten a little more expensive since then, maybe because people ran down there. But it seemed to me that you could almost live like a king on $1.98, and it's not the case, no?
Well, not $1.98, maybe $2.50.
Okay, all right.
No,
what's it really like?
No, it's not dirt cheap. I think prices are going up all over the world, and Costa Rica is no exception. It's like there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is the food's getting a lot better. The bad news is it's more expensive.
Are things grown there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And if you go to farmers markets rather than supermarkets, of course, you'll spend less.
When things are brought in, you have to pay that transportation and all of that. And
Exactly. But it's very difficult to say, like, how much money you need, because everybody lives so differently. But I think somebody wrote in, a reader wrote in saying, can I live well in Costa Rica on $20,000 a year? And I said, most definitely.
Now, you also said you have to live more frugally, though.
Well, sure.
There. In other words, I don't know if it was 20,000, but I think at one point you said if you are willing to get a room and not an apartment, if you are willing not to have a car but to take public transportation.
Right. But that's somebody like me who lives on a budget and who's sort of a backpacker in mentality.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are people who spend a lot more and still live on a lot less than they would spend here.
And the culture, are there things to do there?
There's a lot to do there. I mean,
can you go see a movie? Could you go out and see Social Network or The King's Speech right now if you were living in Costa Rica?
If you're in the Central Valley. In the Central Valley, where the capital city of San Jose is, there's all sorts of culture. You can go to the theater. You can go to the symphony.
How are the schools?
The public schools are pretty good, and the private schools are very good.
So who is this good for? I mean, if you went down there as a single woman, and I think that's a difficult transition sometimes. I mean, you want to get away, maybe? You want a new start? It's great. But you don't have anybody to lean on when it's like, do I go to the DMV or find a new dentist or find out where the shopping is? You know, all that. I mean, it's a lot to do at once.
Yeah. I was pretty scared to move down by myself. I almost didn't go. I was.
But you made the transition. What about a family with kids? Now,
a family with kids, it would be wonderful.
And retirees.
That too, but I was thinking, as I listened to your previous guest, about the new generation and how they have a short attention span. A good solution would be move your kids to Costa Rica, which
is monkeys.
Well, it's a totally different culture. They have different values.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the book is called Living Abroad in Costa Rica. It's got a lot of good reviews. I have to tell you, I didn't read as much of this as I normally would when I prepare for a show because I couldn't get it away from my husband's hands. Anyway, and your website, I can't read it there, is livingincostarica.com. Does that sound right?
Living Abroad in Costa Rica.
Thank you very much. Okay,
just
the white letters on yellow aren't doing it for me. All right. We're going to thank you also for being here, Erin, and we're going to leave you now with the Bay Area's own women's music ensemble, Kitka. They'll be performing throughout the Bay Area this month and next. For information, you can visit their website at kitka.org. I'm Susan Sikora. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.